I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't know if Team USA wins that game if her toe's not on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I as a sports fan, you always like we've all had moments when everything is clinched and you're feeling really tense. That was probably the most tense I ever felt watching a Team USA women's basketball game, just because of how tit for tat the game was. I was telling someone, I was telling a friend of mine that we were just talking about the game. And I was like, man, like the whistle was very loose until like it was a very tight whistle until like the end of the game when they actually started calling the fouls. Like there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of calls that we thought should have went our way that didn't. It was a very back and forth game. At one point, I think we were down as much as 10. And it goes back to, it reminded me of what we were talking about when we reacted to that Japan game and how we talked about the fact that we as a team hit 4 threes, but still beat Japan by like 30 or whatever it was. We hit 2 threes in that game on Sunday. We were like 2 for 12 or 2 for 14 or something like that. And I thought, just like you thought, kind of like we talked, that the shooting, that was like an isolated incident, but that bad shooting almost came back and bit us in the butt at the end. And when you consider the players on this team, shooting is not the thing that I thought would almost do us in. I mean, we're talking about a team with Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young and Jewel Lloyd, Sabrina, like the shooters we have on this team, for shooting to almost do us in. That was kind of interesting. So we were, I think we were pretty close to having a very uncomfortable conversation Sunday if we didn't win that game. But
yeah,
I mean, you know, they did what they needed to do to make sure that they can be in a position to win the game, and they did. But that was a very tight game, like from top to bottom. Watching.
Yeah, well, I do think and I was in Costa Rica. I barely got to watch the tail end of the Olympics for men and women. I got to see some stuff here and there, but I watched the highlights back a little bit, and you know, even though we know like all of our players can shoot. I mean, even Brittany Griner can hit a 15-footer or 20-footer. I mean, like making shots, it's not like we had non-shooting. You know, Alyssa Thomas is the only like, you know, non-shooter kind of we have on our roster. Everyone else can shoot, can hit shots, you know, from high-level shooters like Diana and Sabrina to just players that can just flat out hit shots. Jackie Young, Kalia Copper, Jewel Lloyd, like, you know, these players can just flat out hit shots. But and remember when we talked about the team, I had said I felt like the story of the team would be the guard play. I was so excited about the different combinations of guards we could go to with Kelsey and Sabrina and Jackie and Kalia. We still have Chelsea Gray out there. I'm like, man, our guards, not that they would carry us, but I felt like our guards would kind of become the story over time.
Right.
But the story still became our size, our versatility. It looked like we really were sticking with that Asia, Stewie, and Nafisa 3-person front court, where our versatility and our length and our size was really just became our advantage. And then we bring BG off the bench, and she's beating up anybody inside. You're not stopping her. She's just too big. So I think when I looked at the highlights and I looked at how we were playing and how our system seemed to be offensively, we weren't really like running and gunning, you know, 7 seconds or less, 4 out, 1 in, you know, dribble, drive, dribble, kick, you know, drive and kick. We weren't playing that style of offense. So while we had players that we knew could shoot, as I was looking at the gold medal highlights and looking, I'm like, man, no wonder we weren't shooting well. We're not even like playing 3-point shooting basketball. Which not to segue too much like directly into the Caitlin stuff, but I think that's going to be a difference when we see a team that's built around and led by Caitlin as the lead guard, a team that should be encouraged more to be more of a gravity team, more of a 3 guards out or 4 out, 1 in type of thing, where we are looking to kind of light you up from the outside. I think a team built like that around Caitlin will be more ideal with Caitlin on it, as opposed to like what we're used to now, which is like really just killing you with our size and versatility.
And that goes back to the point that you were making, and you made it on that episode that we pulled the clip from, of it's going to be in Caitlin's best interest to be on a team where it's built around her, because Caitlin's talented and she's a good basketball player, but every team that Caitlin's been on has been predicated on the ability to do what you just said, run and gun, get in space and shoot the basketball. And that's not the basketball that we were playing. So that's not to say that Caitlin couldn't have gone out there and still got hers off within the flow of the offense, because as Diana Taurasi said after the Final Four game, great players find ways to be great in those moments. And so she certainly would have gotten a couple off, but would she have been the Caitlin Clark that we saw maybe the last 2-3 weeks of the season leading into the All-Star break? No, because leading into the All-Star break, she was on a team that's predicated on what? Moving and getting the ball in space, running and gunning and shooting those shots. That's not what we were doing. So to your point about Caitlin, when we talk about, and I love that, someone tweeted at Angel Reese about, or mentioned Angel Reese in the tweet about looking at 2028, and Angel was kind of like, let's let these 12 ladies here enjoy their moment, and we'll talk about 2028 when the time comes. But we're a podcast. We're not tweeting at Angel Reese, so we can talk about it. We have that free range. When you look to 2028 and you think about the players that are going to be on that team, obviously we know that Caitlin's going to be on that team. Obviously Angel should be on that team as well. Thinking about their ages, I would say that Stewie and Asia should probably also be on that team as well. Asia will be 32, and Stewie, I think, is a year or two older, I think.
Stewie is... I was just looking at it, too. I think you're right. I think Stewie's 30. I think I saw Stewie's 30.
Right. So so she'll be 34 by that point. Both of them will still be, good enough to, and if nothing else, they'll get the Diana Taurasi treatment, but they're great. So they'll be on the team as well. Like, what other players are you looking at that are in the league right now, players that will be entering the league between now and 28 that you would like to see on the team, you expect to see on the team, so forth and so on? That's going to be a big year too, because it's going to be here. So
yeah, man, yeah,
that might be the year. I know we kind of did a lot of knocking on the whole like marketing thing. That might be the year where they try to ruffle some feathers and cut some corners and put players that are well known to pack those buildings, because it's going to be here instead of over there in Paris.
Yeah, no, I feel like when I was just looking at the ages, I was trying to remember numbers. I think I have that right, that Stewie is 30. I did know, I saw that Sabrina and Jackie Young are the two youngest. Yeah.
Stewie was drafted in 16 and Asia was drafted in 18, I think. So she should be about 2 years older. So yeah, she should be 30.
Sabrina and Jackie are the two youngest at 26.
Right.
Alyssa Thomas is probably out of there. She's already 32. Diana's obviously out of there. She's the oldest by far. BG might be out of there. I think she's 32, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And of course she missed out on some time, unfortunately. But
but
it's going to be interesting. Like, I saw Kalia Copper is 28 or 29.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. Like, so Chelsea Gray, she's already in her 30s. She's most likely on the team. Maybe she has one more run in her, but she, more likely than not, she's gone. But so even our like younger players, like again, Sabrina's 26, Jackie Young's 26, two youngest, they'll be 30 years old.
30. Yeah.
So we are going to have a nice combination of like some of our players who will still be there, a little bit old, Sabrina's and the Jackies and the Kalias, they'll be even more of like a veteran presence. But it's the team in 28 is going to be a combination of like, they won't be, and it's going to be cool because it's like they're not going to be too old. Like you mentioned, Asia and Stewie should still be pretty good to go. Asia will probably be on the tail end of her prime. Like she should still be plenty good to go. So we should have a really nice, interesting combination of like our older veteran players who are still good, some of them still elite, and some of our younger players like Caitlin and Angel are going to be the two headliners.
Obviously,
I don't really think of anyone like right away off the top of my head. I don't know if you have anyone else in mind specifically that could
in the league work right now.
And that's in the league or not in the league. Anyway, I'm just thinking of like younger players. Like, I mean, Caitlin and Angel are going to be on that team.
Yeah, they're going to be on that team.
Maybe Cam Brink. Maybe I would
say that Cam Brink would be on that team. I think. Yeah. Maybe. I think. I mean, she'll have just as much. I mean, technically a little bit less because she's not playing this year because of the ACL, but she'll still have as much WNBA exposure as Cam Brink. No, yeah, I was gonna say she might not be on the team because of 3v3, but she'll be on that. She'll be on that
Hey,
team.
you know who needs to be on the team for more reasons than one, and I won't say too much on it, but Ryan Howard needs to be on that team.
Yeah, I would.
She better make
That's a
sure
great
she's
point.
on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
team,
that's a great
and
point.
we should almost need her. Like she's too
You
good.
would want
Like,
her to be on the team. She's too good to
she
not
should
be.
want. She's
I know
got to
she's
be on
having a
that team.
down year this year, but she's too good not to be on
In
that
4 years, I mean, in the next
in
few
4
years,
years.
I had high hopes for her this season, and
Right,
she hasn't been too, great this year, but just
right.
talent wise, ability wise, we know what
Mhm,
she is and what she can do. And over the next few years, as she continues to show who she really
mhm.
is, by
Yeah.
2028, she should be a lock, and that should be a great addition.
So this is something that's interesting because it's interesting that the men don't do this and the women's do. And I think if it's, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it is interesting if it is. You have certain players, and I'll use Ryan Howard as an example because of the 4 players on the 3x3 team from this year, Ryan Howard's the only one that would likely make the. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Dearica Hamby's not going to be at that level. She might be back on 3v3, but not on the Olympic team. Haley Van Lith will be in the league, but Haley Van Lith won't be on.
Yeah.
She won't be on the Olympic team either. And then I can't think of the other player's name, but she's not in the league at all, so she wouldn't be on the Olympic team. I wonder if there's any benefit to Team USA using the 3x3 team as a way to get players ready for the traditional Olympic team. And what I mean by that is, and this stems from a conversation I was having with a friend of mine, shout out Janae, because we were going back and forth about this. The one thing that I kind of made a point to a lot of fans as relates to Diana Taurasi specifically on the legacy aspect of it, like her being a legacy pick, and I mentioned this on the show, is the amount of experience she has playing international basketball. And the importance in remembering that the rules that these ladies are playing for World Cup and Olympics and things are not the rules that they're playing here in the WNBA. And I wonder if maybe there's any value in having players, younger players like a Juju Watkins, for example, who again might be on the team just off the strength of her name value. The fact that she's coming from USC and the Olympics is in LA, I think she'll be coming out in 27. So she would also kind of be like a Shamik Holdsclaw, where she'd have a full rookie season before the Olympic year the following year, where you can put some of those younger players and get them to dip their toes into an international play by playing on the 3v3 team. Because let's be honest, with the rise of overtime, I mean, overtime more so affects like high school and college goes, but like with Unrivaled, for example, I'm sure the growth of Unrivaled over the next 4 years and any other potential alternative to players going international during the WNBA offseason as a direct response to what happened with Brittany Griner, obviously. The likelihood of us seeing American WNBA players going and playing in the Turkish league or going and playing in the Euro League over the next 4 years, I feel like is dwindling. But you don't also want them to just be going out there and playing international basketball for the first time and playing under those rules for the first time in the Olympics. Like, I wonder if there's any value or if there's going to be any intent in making sure that any player that Team USA might want to be on that team come 2028, especially the younger players who aren't in the league right now, has some exposure to that, if that means putting them on a 3x3 World Cup team, if that means making sure that as they're in college or as they're coming up into college, they're participating in like the FIBA World Cup and the America Cup and all that stuff, so that when it's time for them to go to the Olympics and be in LA in 2028, they're not playing under FIBA rules for the first time. And I guess I kind of want to get your thoughts on that, because I feel like that's something that not a lot of people take into consideration, because it's not something that's really thought about, the fact that the rules that they play Olympics are not the rules that they're playing in the WNBA. Like there are stark differences between the two.
Yeah, there are. No, I think that's valid. I think it's a valid point. I think that's something that they should and will kind of look to do. I think there's something to like the idea of just wearing USA on your chest. I think that, when you listen to people talk about USA basketball and Team USA and stuff, like it's really like, it's like a fraternity, a sorority. It's a rite of passage. So even if it's just 3-on-3, like when you talk about getting used to the rules and stuff, I feel like you also have to even just get used to wearing USA on your chest.
Yeah.
representing, playing for your country, like playing, you know, as opposed to playing for your franchise or your college team. Like, I feel like that's something you have to get used to too. And it's a
bigger
great way to
responsibility.
and it's a great way to get players acclimated to USA basketball, to just wearing the colors, wearing USA on your chest, playing with other players of that higher caliber. That's a whole adjustment thing too. So no, I think that's valid. And I think as we're getting more of this young talent coming up that we're going to want to be part of USA basketball, I think that's a very sound strategy. I think that's something that we will see. If we, you know, if it doesn't make sense to put Juju on the 5-on-5 team, on the Olympic team right away, maybe they slip her into the 3-on-3, just knowing that it's like, we want her to be part of USA basketball. Let's get her acclimated in the 3-on-3. Yeah.
And Juju would kill. 3-on-3.
I mean, that would be fire.
That would be,
that would be.
I mean, because I think about it like this, and I'm going to go back to the Caitlin Clark point for just a second. And again, this also stems from that same conversation I was having. This is, as you mentioned, a great, and as we've talked about throughout the course of the year, it's a great time for women's basketball, not just because of the records and the viewership, and also, but like, and I kind of alluded to this when we last had a show. There are two distinct groups of fans. There are the fans who are just here for Caitlin or just here for one person, only care about that one person. And then there are fans who are actually new women's basketball fans. I think it's important over the next 4 years that like the fans that are just here for one person actively make a conscious effort to become a fan of the sport. Because when you become a fan of women's basketball, you will learn and you will appreciate everyone involved. And it won't be a scenario of how I've seen a couple people say that like the difference between Caitlin Clark being on the team versus not being on the team is the number of people that saw and knew that Team USA won gold. And that may be true, and I'm sure it is, but like if you're a fan of women's basketball, you would know that Team USA won gold because you're keeping up with these things. And so I think like making the conscious decision to like, yeah, I'm here for Caitlin, or yeah, I'm here for Paige, or I'm here for Kiki or Yafin or Juju or whoever you're here for. That's great. But like make the concerted effort to be here for the sport and appreciate all that comes with it so that when we get to LA in 2028, when the Olympics are in America and we're sending players who are more than likely, you know, very deserving of having a spot, you'll watch not just because your favorite player is on the team, but because you're excited to see Team USA go out there and win a 9th straight gold medal. So I think it's not just this year. I think the next 4 years, and we talk about all the time with all the talent coming out, like there are going to be people who are just here because of Paige. There's going to be people who are just here because of Hannah in Malaysia, people who are just here because of Juju, and that's fine. But it's great that you're here because of them. But now let's tap into all of it. And let's appreciate all of it so that when we have these conversations, as we continue to have these conversations about who will, who won't, where they'll be, where they won't be, you'll appreciate all of it and it not turn into a turf war for the next 4 or 5 years between old and new.
Yeah, and I'll say this lastly too, just like what happened in the All-Star game, where we got to see Caitlin and Angel play together. And I talked about how that was just going to be cool for people to be able to experience that. I even went as far to say that they may need to link up and be teammates one day. They may deserve each other based on what each other does really well. It's the best part about watching USA basketball in the Olympics. It's my favorite part about it, especially on the men's side, is that LeBron fan. I mean, what did we just get to see, right? What was the best part on the men's side? LeBron fans, Steph fans, KD fans, Joel Embiid fans, Sixers fans. It doesn't matter. We're all on the same team now. It's my favorite part of the Olympics. We're not at odds anymore. It doesn't matter who's better and who's team. It doesn't matter. We're all on the same team now. I get to root for LeBron and Embiid. You get to root for Tatum and Booker and KD. Like whatever, you know, old Warriors fans who might hate KD now, they got to put that to the side. It's like, bro, we get to love on everybody. It's going to be the same thing for the women when we get to see Caitlin and Angel rock out together with USA on their chest to go against other countries. That's going to be the great unifier between the two fan bases. That's what's going to be the coolest thing to see is Caitlin and Angel not only on the same team, but on Team USA going up against other countries. That's going to be one of the coolest moments to see during this generation as this whole boom of women's basketball, as I like to call it. When Caitlin and Angel put on those USA colors and play together on that team, that Olympic, our country energy poured into the Caitlin and Angel fan bases.
Yeah.
That's gonna be lit. That's gonna be really lit, bro.
Let me invent time travel so I can just go to 2028 right now, man. Because you're right, man. That's gonna be great. I mean, there's so many players that that have put the jersey on in one way or another, but like you're excited to see them put it on again, and it's gonna be here, which again is why I say like you have to tap in now, and you have to because it's going to be here. Like you don't want to be the guy that's like Team USA's playing here and not playing in America, and you're complaining and like don't be that guy. Don't be that person.
But it's not going to be that, bro. It's going to be this. It's going to be very similar to the energy we see with like LeBron and KD are in terms of fan bases, like the fan bases create this rivalry. KD and Steph and LeBron, but think about it. Like we've watched the women's team. There haven't been like real internal rivalries. So like when we get to see Diana play when we see Asia and Stewie play together, it's fire. But guess what? Like they respect each other. They're friends. There's not there's a rivalry in the sense that they're the two best players in the league. But even their fan bases don't perpetuate the rivalry like that. Right. It's not that serious. This Caitlin and Angel thing has become a whole thing. So that's why I keep talking about when they get to play together, that's going to be
especially if they have to, especially if they're facing off in playoffs between now and then, and don't let one of them win the championship and the other one doesn't. It's going to
rivalry. The stronger the rivalries, of course, again, the fan bases are the ones doing it, but the stronger the rivalry kind of becomes among the fan bases, the cooler it's going to be to see them come together, and the more the fan bases are going to really get behind Team USA and USA basketball when the time comes in 2028, assuming that they're going to be teammates on that